Hello, everyone. I hope you are all well. I'm very happy to have you here. Today is the student interview with Josh Teague of Running Tea. Is that correct, Josh? If you want to, I'm going to give you the Josh. Yeah, I'm going to make you the host, the panelist, so you can move this as you want. Okay, Josh? Hello, Josh? Oh, you're muted, Josh. If you could please unmute yourself.
How about that? Well,
Now I can see you.
I'm trying to work with the light here a little bit.
Yeah, let me close my door also because they're watching the laundry. Okay. Well, let me just say hello and welcome to Bogdan, Dennis, Eric, Farm 2009, and Jason, Kelly, and John. Welcome here. Now it's your time to shine, Josh. I don't know if you want to tell us a little about your background. For example, the name of your ranch is Running Tea Ranch or Farm?
Yeah, Running Tea Farms.
Running Tea Farms. Okay, sorry. Uh, were you always grazing livestock in your life, or when?
No, we really we bought our first cattle in 2014. So my family's always been in livestock, but not me personally. And my father kind of diverged from that. So I was always around it, but never really directly involved in it. I mean, we had horses and chickens and pigs, but it just more hobby farming up until 2014 when we started getting in the cattle business, buying Holstein bottle calves and raising and bottle calves, and it just kind of kept progressing from there.
I'm sure that will encourage other people.
Yeah.
Okay, but you do sell grass-fed beef, right? In only a short time, in 10 years. That's a short time.
Yeah, yes, sir. We direct market all ours, birth to harvest, 100% grass fed, grass finished beef. So we've that is in large part due to my wife Brandy, who handles the marketing and the selling of the beef. I just try to make sure she don't run out of beef to sell.
Yeah, of course. And when did you start selling grass-fed beef? Which year?
2019 in earnest, and that was also right about the time that we had our twin boys, Will and Wes, kind of unexpected. We started a business and then found out we were going to have a baby, and then we found out it was going to be twins, and so it just everything kind of happened there all at one time. But we're glad it did, and here we are.
So how many children you have?
Just those
Yeah,
two
oh, just
boys. I'm a late bloomer,
yeah.
Jim. I didn't get started early.
Well, you
I
got
was 40
compensated.
years old when they were born.
Okay, well, you were compensated. You have two at a time.
Right, yeah. It's get it out of the way quick. So
Congratulations. Have you always been an entrepreneur or not?
have I always been what?
An entrepreneur, starting something.
Well, when I got out of high school, I joined the Navy. So I was in the Navy for 4 years, and my grandpa on my mother's side was a carpenter. So in high school, every summer I worked for him doing construction work. I joined the Navy for 4 years, worked on F-14s, got out and got back into construction, and I also run a construction business. I've been a licensed general contractor for 22, 23 years. So I do that also along with cattle farming.
Okay, so you are more than an entrepreneur. You're juggling many things at the same time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Now, what scared you or held you back from joining the Total Grazing Academy when you first heard about it?
You know, I don't really. I've always been one that if I research something, I always do quite a bit of reading, read everything I can, do all the research I can, watch all the YouTube videos, anything I can. And once I've kind of made my mind up that I think that's the right path, the right idea, I usually go after it, you know, wholeheartedly, so to speak. So once I had made that decision, you know, I jumped in. Uh, you know, you always when you first get into trying to improve the land with animals, you know, you hear the graze a third, graze a half, you know, scenario. Oh, you can't graze the plant down, you know, short. It's just the wrong approach. And that's the way I started out, you know, trying to take that approach. And then you know, in a really good year where you had really good rainfall, timely rainfall, you know, we could maintain a decent stocking rate and still graze stockpile through, you know, a good part of the winter.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just from a economic type of standpoint, I would say. You know, you hit those years where it gets dry in midsummer, you have a dry fall, and then you know, you've messed up your whole farm, you're overgrazing everything, you run out of grass, you feed hay for 6 months. You know, that's not a way to make money. And then on the you know, just the grass front, we would see I was just seeing you know, transition from some of my better species in the pasture, some of the more palatable, higher quality species. You see those decreasing. You start to see, you know, some plant spacing increasing. You know, and it's hard to you got to be honest with yourself, you know. And I think there was probably a year or two there when I wasn't being honest with myself as far as what I was observing on the landscape, because you know, you want to think you're doing right, and I always was trying to do the best that I knew how to do, and I was I thought I was improving the land. But you know, there comes a point in time when you have to say, hey, you know, I fed more hay than I should have, and I fed even more this year, and my ground's becoming a little less productive than it was the year before.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes when you think you're trying to do everything right, you know, and then you're not. So that's kind of where we got to. And I said, we've got to, you know, what we're doing is not working. And you know, I got to make a change. So I've always been an avid reader, you know, so I've read a lot of books, and no surprise to you, Man, Cattle, and Veiled from Johann Zeitzman. I read that, and as I was reading, you know, and hearing him talk about the grazing practices, you know, it just kind of started clicking for me. Watched your and his, you know, you got multiple things on YouTube, you and him together, and
Yeah.
you know, it's still hard to overcome that high utilization grazing. You know, when you some of these other guys got out in front of you on the take half, leave half, take a third, you know, and they kind of get that uh, beat into people's mind that that's the only way. Uh, and like I said, in a really good year with perfect conditions, you can maintain a reasonable stocking rate, but you can't. Uh, we don't have those years. We have more odd years than you have perfect years. So you need to graze in a manner that takes that into account and can improve the land.
So what type of grazing were you doing before this course? What type of grazing program are you doing now?
Yeah, so mainly, we tried to, I don't know if you would call it, sort of like the Greg Judy style of grazing, where we would move them really fast in the spring and try to get around the whole farm, and then we would slow them down a bit as you're coming in the summer and the grass growth slow, and we graze primarily cool season forages here. We now actually have a lot of warm season forages getting in the mix since we've changed our grazing style, but so we'd get that's what we did, and tried to just keep moving around the farm, grazing taller. They would say graze it taller every time, but you wound up, like I said, you wound up with dry weather or this and that, and then you run across your whole farm, and then you've got a whole farm of unrecovered grass.
That's what
So
I experienced the same. Okay, so now you're doing the total grazing program where you stockpile grass instead of feeding hay, right?
yes, sir.
Okay. Would you consider your livestock genetics to be adapted now?
We're working in that direction.
Okay.
We've got some animals since we started using Mashona genetics on our. We were primarily a Black Angus herd. I mean, we got a few baldy cows, but they were all British breed cows, primarily Black Angus cows. And it was always a struggle in the summer. We graze Kentucky 31 fescue for the most part, and you'll have cows. We got up close to say you get to 75 degrees, you'd have cows with their tongues hanging out. They just simply could not they just could not stand it. So that alters the way that you can graze. So you can't graze in a manner that you need to graze in with that type of animal. It's hard to improve the land when you're chasing shade around your farm and all they want to do is shade up. We had some serious issues with nutrient transfer via the cattle. I don't think a lot of people understand how big of an issue that can be. They go out there, they graze, they get their bellies full, they go in the shade, and then the first thing they do is stand up and they urinate and defecate in the shade, and then they go back out and maybe graze, and they do that multiple times during the day because they're so unadapted. They'll just run out there for 15 or 20 minutes, and then they hightail it back to the shade, and every time they do that, they're just relocating those the nutrients that they need to be leaving where they graze, and they're putting it where it don't need to be. Then it kills your trees because they get nutrient overload around your trees. So that was a struggle from the very beginning. It didn't matter what type of grazing you're doing, whether you're doing take a third, take half. They struggled so much during hot weather. It was really hard to graze certain areas of the farm. We're reclaiming a good amount of cropland here, so we don't have a lot of shade, and a whole lot of our paddocks is just open paddocks. We're in the process of trying to get more trees back out on the landscape, but it takes a bit of time. This was just crop production. They didn't want any trees anywhere because they might have to drive their tractor around it, so they got rid of all of them. So that's where we are at. But with the since we've started incorporating Mashona genetics, the heat adaptation, has just is tremendous. It's hard to believe the difference that can make. And those other cattle, you know, the straight Angus cattle, when it gets hot, they just won't eat. They're too hot to eat. You know, so they lose body condition. You really have to open up the selectivity of the graze so they can just really go and get the very, very, very best and leave everything else if you got any shot of them maintaining their body condition, because they just get so hot, all they can do is stand in the shade and pant.
Could that have something to do with the fescue toxicity in the summer?
Absolutely. It's fescue toxicity is a very real thing. Anybody who has never dealt with it, it's a very real thing, and it's especially if you got cattle who are naive to it. There's a lot of novel endophyte fescue out there now, and there's more and more of it being put in. I would encourage anybody, if you're buying cattle, and they say, oh yeah, we graze fescue this day and time, you better make darn sure that you specify whether it's Kentucky 31 fescue or a novel endophyte fescue, because if you dump an animal that's naive to Kentucky 31 fescue, you'll have tails falling off, feet falling off.
And Josh, could that be the reason why they go to fall calving and winter breeding?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because of non-adapted livestock.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that lowers their stocking rate. In my experience, like around to half of what they could have.
Sure.
Okay, so now that you are selecting, and according to the adapted genetics and selection course, and you have Machona half-bloods, are you going to have them calve in spring and breed back in the hot summer because that's more in tune with your forage flow?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what we're doing now. We'll have the first round of those. I kind of opted to for the rip the Band-Aid off approach in changing my calving season. So I just kind of split the herd in half. We already had some half-bloods on the ground, and I've seen what they were capable of. So I just kind of drew a line in the sand, and we split the herd in half. And I said, I'm going to breed half of them to start calving May 1st, and I'm going to do the other ones in the fall. I'm going to have a bit of a production gap, but it's harder to back them up. From a fall calving, we usually start calving in September, the 1st of September, and to back them up, well, we'd be having babies right in the August, July to get back through there, and I was just afraid we get extremely hot and humid, and like I said, I don't have a lot of shade for those new babies, so I opted to just go the other way with it. And we did breed the last bit of our fall calving cows are bred back now, and when they calve out next fall, we're just going to get rid of those. We will at that point in time have enough, and so I've got a handful still. I mean, I've still got a fair number of Angus cows, but we have sort of culled out the ones that were handling that the least. So, but no mistake, over the next couple of years, we will probably cull out all of our straight British bred animals, just due to the fact that they'll come up open. I'm not going to get rid of them. But, we'll put a full blood Machona bull on all of our straight Angus cows via AI. And then I've got some young half-blood bulls that we've selected out of our best cows, and I've got some more coming that we'll breed those, and we'll actually clean up with those. So I'm sure I'll end up with some quarter blood stuff in the process, and maybe they work a little bit, maybe they don't. I think from what I've seen, the 50-50 for my environment is going to be the ticket. We finished out some first steers went to the processor this year, out of them. They finish very nicely, 24 months old. And I'm going to do a video of all these guys. I've got that promised. I hadn't got around to it. I've got all the carcass data, the weight, all the steaks. They finished out well, hung well, meat looked great. I think there was about 1,100 pounds full weight right off the pasture, and they hung
24 months.
600 pounds.
24 months.
24 months, yes.
And they were half-blood Mashona, half-blood Angus.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Great. Well, I like that you use the word probably get rid of those Angus cows, but probably not, because stocking rate determines profits. So you want to have the highest stocking rate you can. That's where the money is. Okay, I have some questions. What are your expectations regarding stocking rate?
My expectations, I want to get, like you said, I agree with you 100%, probably, because you taught me a lot of this stuff that I know, but that is what determines profitability is how many animals that you can keep, and do it, as you always say, I'm just repeating what you've said, at a low cost. Anybody can have a high stocking rate if you're willing to buy enough feed in, but it's not very profitable. No. And it's very, I did more damage to my landscape trying to feed hay in the winter, because our ground never really freezes here where we're at. We stay wet and muddy in the winter, and there's no good way. I've tried every kind of way to feed hay possible. And if it gets wet and muddy, you just make a mess. You waste a lot of hay. Cows destroy the ground. So, I want to graze 365 days a year. I always keep some hay in the barn. Occasionally we get some ice, freezing rain. Occasionally we get some snow, but if we get snow here, it's gone, 3, 4 days, 5 days, it's out of here. So, but we always keep enough hay for a little bit of an insurance policy. If we get a bad ice storm or snowstorm or something, we got to have something to feed our stock. But
yeah,
we're stocked right now. We have successfully grazed 355, 365 days a year, with about we're stocked right now at about 1,000 pounds of live animal weight per 1.2, 1.3 acres. So
okay, that's very good. And without hay.
Yes, without hay. So it's a little bit hard, but the way, so we always have our brood cows, yearlings, and finishing animals on the farm at any one time. At any one time, we've got those 3 classes of livestock on the farm. So it's not just like we're running a straight cow-calf operation. We've always got cows, yearlings, and coming 2-year-old animals that we're finishing to sell as grass-fed beef. So that's kind of how our stocking rate breaks down, and kind of what I've found works well for us. But we're increasing our carrying capacity. I mean, our carrying capacity is still increasing, and we're increasing stocking rate as that increases. But right now, the way it works for me, oddly enough, is our acreage. Before we just rented the farm, we were running about 165 acres, and if you just divide that by 3, and that's the number of brood cows I ran, and it just worked out. We ran about 55, 60 brood cows, and we kept we had the yearlings and the coming 2-year-olds.
Yeah.
And that worked out for us, total live weight on the farm at any one time, somewhere around 1,000 pounds per 1.2, 1.3 acres.
And what would you consider your supplement cost to be per cow per year, per animal unit per year?
Yeah, I mean, we give them sea salt, so that's it. If we do feed a little bit of hay, I mean, it's very, very little anymore. I mean, maybe we fed 8 or 10 days worth of hay. You're feeding four bales a day, so you put your price for the hay on there for your area. Our area, $55 for a 4x5 round bale.
And
So
what would you consider your real life fertility to be in your cows?
we've always bred up very well. When we were selectively grazing, I mean, we would breed up 95%. Our heifers, like our replacement heifers, we would breed those usually. I always bred those for a very short time, like 30 days. And I've never bred any more than 63 days. We never ran longer than a 63-day calving season. And we've been at 45 days for the last several years.
That's better.
When we first went to total grazing, non-selective grazing, we did breed up. We did see our breed up drop strictly because so I was dabbling with this before I took your class. I had started doing some total grazing before I took your class, just from what I'd read and done on myself. And you say it over and over in the class, you got to keep your eye on your cow's body condition.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to get caught up in the landscape improvement and take your eye off the cow. And I did that a little bit. That's all on me. So we saw that go down, but we've got that straightened out. There's a little bit of a learning curve, that could have been skipped over with a little bit better learning on my part before that. But
or coaching maybe.
Yes, sir. And so I would caution anybody if they're starting this, number one, just take Jim's course, because he can skip you over a lot of this heartburn that I self-inflicted on myself just by learning what to look for better. But you're going to have cows in your herd if you start this. You're going to have some that's going to start dropping in body condition pretty quick. Yep. And the rest of your other ones, you're going to think, oh, well, they're still doing good. I got this handful that's, they're not doing as well as I like, but they're okay. They're those cows, those first ones that start losing condition that you can notice, those are your canary and your coal mine cows. They're telling you what those other cows are doing too. You just hadn't seen it yet. And and you would be very surprised. It doesn't take with the modern genetics. I had very modern genetics. I AI bred to some of the top Angus sires that select sires and ABS. I did that for many years. We had some I weaned the same set of cows, some of the cows that's there now, I weaned and backgrounded for 45, almost 60 days, a set of steers that we sold at average 775 pounds at about 9 months. We weaned them they was probably 9.5 months old, weighed 775 pounds. But the problem with that is, those females, their heifer counterparts, they can't perform in an all grass environment. They were bred to be fed. They were not bred to graze. And so you start to see that coming to fruition after you get down the trail a little bit. So, but those cows, it doesn't take those modern genetics, they don't have the ability to store up very much fat, and it does not take a very, very small increment decrease in body condition to really impact your fertility, your breed up.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much. We went from 95% breed up probably down to around 75 or 80. And and that was, you know, it wasn't the cow's fault per se. It was,
No.
they just were not genetically equipped to do what I was asking them to do. And then I was a little hard, got a little more caught up in improving the landscape with the animal, and I took my eye off the animal a little bit. So
And
I would,
now, what real life fertility are you getting now that you trying to straighten that?
yeah, so I would say still not hardly what I want, because we're still breeding some of these straight British cows, and we're asking them now to start breeding up in July and August. So I expected a little bit less on those. The Mashona cross ones that we bred up, they bred up. I had one out of the whole lot, and she bred, but for some reason she actually bred, and I thought she had settled. She never cycled. It was even after the breeding season. For some reason, she didn't set. She lost her calf afterwards.
Yeah.
But we bred up on 45-day breeding season. This breeding in July and August this year, 85% on that was including the Mashona half bloods and then the straight Angus bred cows. And naturally we had the more of the, like I said, almost all the Mashona cross bred up just bam, soon as we, you know, we AI'd them, and almost all of them settled AI. We did have some bulls in. I mean, they just bred right up beautifully. So I would
So
expect the same going forward.
I think you will. So how do you feel so far? Are you advancing? Are your soil, grasses, and livestock improving?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't see how it can be otherwise. We're improving our carrying capacity year over year. So you know, there's all these metrics. I went to it's been 2 weeks ago now. I'm a member of the North Carolina Forage and Grasslands Council, and they had a speaker at our winter conference, and he's a good speaker, and I'm not going to call any names, but you know, I was listening to his spiel, and they were talking about bricks meters and digging holes all over your farm with your shovel to look for soil life, and any number of these things. And I agree you can do all those things, but I don't think you have to. You can observe. If you'll be honest with yourself, when you go out and look at your land, you go out and look at your cows, you'll know whether you're growing more grass. If
Yeah.
your carrying capacity is increasing year over year, you're seeing, you know, your plant spacing tighten up, you're growing more grass. Your soil has to be improving. It can't be otherwise. I don't see how it can be otherwise. If you're continuing to trend upward with your ability to maintain more animals on your farm, you have to be improving your landscape function and your
So
ecosystem processes.
I agree. So what is the number of animals you want to sustain in the future?
I mean, I would like to see us at 1,000 pounds per acre, uh, you know, graze, and we may do better than that. I mean, we're definitely making improvements, you know, and I realize that at some point you know, you make exponential improvements, it's going to slow down a little bit. At some point there is a maximum carrying capacity for every landscape. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
the sky is not the limit. At some point, you know, nature will put a cap on it, but
Yeah.
uh uh I think we've still got room. We've still got room to go. I would like to see us at I would like to see us at 1,000 pounds of live animal weight per acre, and I think we can get there over the next few years,
I think
especially as our genetics, we tune these genetics in.
that's what I wanted to say. When all your females are calving in the spring, your carrying capacity will go up very fast.
Yeah,
And then you will again start to level off and then improve your slow cycling carbon in your soil, and then that will keep improving. But at the least, you're going to have a higher stocking rate and lower costs. That's very
absolutely.
important. Now, I
The
have another question. Have you finished the minimum and flexible electric fence infrastructure in your farm?
We have on our main farm, we
Yeah.
have I think we have 22 or 23 permanently divided paddocks with a water source in each one of them that we further subdivide. We move. Generally, I run two herds of animals, uh, starting usually during the growing season, basically. We will be weaning our fall calves. Typically I wean them around the end of April, 1st of May, and I put those with my finishing animals that we're grass finishing, and I run them in a herd, with on a more selective graze. Just I think that I'll be able, after seeing the way that these Mashona cross animals, I'll be able to graze them, put a little bit more high utilization grazing with those finishing animals as the genetics get better. The genetics is the hold up on that.
You're going to find out they're going to finish much easier. I have been able to finish it with the cow herd, the pure Mashona, on very low quality Bahia grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get there. Okay, does moving your livestock take you less than 10 minutes once you get there?
Oh yeah, I mean, if it was so absolutely, if you're uh got some minimal permanent fencing in where you're just subdividing it with a reel and poly wire, it's very, very quick and easy.
And do you work off the farm?
I do, yes, I do. So I usually get up in the morning early, and I go over and move the cows. The first move, uh, I'll give Penn's Agro polywire lifters a free plug here. I bought some of the polywire lifters to do my two midday moves for me, and then I went ahead and bought a third one to do the last move for me. Not that I'm not always there to check gut feel and on those animals, but sometimes I might be coming in a little bit later than I intended to, and I want to go ahead and get those cows in that last break of the day grazing. And I like to do it very deliberately at the same time. I like they get used to when it's time to move. They know when it's time to move, and I think they perform better if you keep those moves very consistent.
Yes, routine is very important with livestock.
So those Penn's Agro polywire lifters, after I got the cattle trained to go under that polywire, I thought that would be a week or 10-day process. That was a month-long process to get them to walk under that polywire. But once they got it down, that's the single biggest time saver that I have found. You can go to 4 times a day cattle move. If you're able to see your cows in the morning and the evening, you can let those wire lifters do those two midday moves for you. I'm sure you would second my opinion. You must be there to make sure you gave those animals enough to eat at that. They need to be full. I heard one of your other students, I thought he explained it as well as I'd heard, which is Hobbs fire and salt beef.
Yeah.
He was talking about the breaks. He said you need to think about that fourth break like a bonus break. He said they really kind of need to have had all they need to eat for the day in the first 3 breaks, and that fourth one is kind of like a bonus. They need to be really nice and full and not rushing per se into that fourth break, so you make sure that you've got them fed. And I thought that was a good way to put it. And you'll find when you get back out there the next morning, they've grazed that other break down, even though they look like they couldn't hold another bite when they moved in. They'll get up in the night and I guess pick around and eat it down too. But got to make sure that you keep your animals fed. If you don't,
Yeah.
just like you say in the course, you explain it all very well. If you get out there and you didn't give them enough what to do, so you cover all that very well.
So how do you juggle all your off-farm work and coming back to the cows? Do you take the weekend off, or how do you do it?
I don't. I probably should. I like to move cows. I take my boys go with me. A lot of the times on the weekend, my wife goes with me. It's kind of a family outing. Since I am gone a lot during the day, I always see my cows twice a day. I go over there in the morning and then in the evenings. So I always see them twice a day, and set up the moves for the next day. But I'm definitely not adverse to doing, as you say, and setting up for a day and a half on the weekends. If I was here at the farm full time, I would definitely do that. Uh, I like to get over there with the cows and do that type of stuff, so I don't mind doing it on the weekends. But absolutely, if we decide we want to go somewhere, whatever, I just give them enough area for if we're leaving for the whole weekend. I got a neighbor I can say, come by and, hey, make sure that you can see the balls floating in the mirror fountain waters. So that they got water, and that's all you got to do. I can give them 2 or 3 days worth of grass, and I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, your harvest efficiency goes down, but you got a quality of life to maintain.
Yes. So speaking of quality of life, how is life now that you have achieved a large area of stockpile grass? What changes for good did it make in your life and the lives of your family?
Well, it's funny. I thought about that today because I've already seen all the fertilizer trucks have hit the road around here. People are spreading their money all over their hay fields, in preparation. And that used to be us many years ago. I would have already booked fertilized to spread on our hay fields, and we would have started, making hay in mid-May and got all of our first cutting hay done, and then we would have made second cutting hay, and then we would have fed it, most of the winter. And it becomes quite a hassle. You're always stressed. Is it going to rain on my hay? Is it going to, before I get it baled, can I get it in the barn before it rains? And then then you start feeding it, and it's a mud hole, and the cows are destroying everything. And there's no way I would go. I think I'd get out of the cow business before I would go back to that. If you've ever grazed through the winter, and I don't have any experience up north where these guys get 20 feet of snow and all
Oh,
that.
yeah.
But just there's no reason in my part of the world, if you will manage your grazing correctly, that you should have to feed hay.
Okay.
And we can stockpile Kentucky 31. We don't even have to supplement.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
don't need you don't need.
with if you get so I mean, I've wintered lactating cows on it and still had good breed up. And I can tell you the cows that are set to calve in May now, the late spring calving cows, they're fat as ticks. I mean, instead of taking a lactating cow through the winter, we've taken a dry or very late lactation cow through the winter. Their ability to keep condition on them is so much easier.
Yes, it is. So, okay, you see, in the Total Grazing Academy, we have four online courses. Which of them impacted your profits the most?
It would have to be the grazing
The
for me,
grazing.
but they all work together. You
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, yeah.
It's hard to separate one from the other. If you're, it's a systems approach. It's a holistic approach, however you want to say it. It's a one builds on the other. You can grow the best grass in the world, and if your genetics or feedlot genetics, they're going to struggle to be productive on it.
Unfortunately.
Nutrition is extremely important, and you're probably one of the most. You was the very first person that I ever heard speak and got the idea in my head that that sward of grass, we can kind of treat it like a total mixed ration. Uh, uh, Grazed, you never thought about that. But by controlling the way your animals graze and when you put them in and what's there, we can balance out that ration to where the animals do well health wise and they can be productive. And you was the first person that I'm sure maybe there were others that had tried to tell me I'm a slow learner, Jim.
Oh no,
It takes
there are
it,
no
but
others.
you got it explained to me where it made sense when I said, you know what, that makes sense.
You see,
There.
I have 25 years experience as a dairy nutritionist, and I had my own raised dairy for 28 years. So I've been doing a lot of that, so I can really understand how the nutrition side, the health of our livestock, is impacted by the way we graze and the stage that we graze on. And if we want to get optimal animal health and conversion efficiency of our grass to saleable products, we need to learn a little about the rumen. Yeah. So yeah, I love that. Thank you. Now we have the Fat Wallet Ranchers membership, the community. I want to know how that has helped you while implementing the Total Grazing Academy in your land.
Well, it's great. That's probably it's your master classes every month are great. I love those. It's always I'm really looking forward to the one you got coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yep, tomorrow. I don't know that I'll be able to attend live, but I always watch the recordings just as fast as I can get a chance to watch those. But the biggest thing about the Fat Wallet Ranchers is in my opinion is access to you. Uh, there's always a ton of members on there posting great stuff, and I learn a lot from them. But and I learn a lot because I read everybody's posts and I read everybody's responses. But I think access to you, because you're so knowledgeable about so much and you do such a good job of getting a quick answer out there. I don't see how you do it. My hat's off to you because I've seen people post stuff at some odd hours and stuff, and you've made a comment, and I think like, man, Jim must just no, he don't even sleep. But I mean, access to you, you've been there and you've done it. You've managed some big farms. You've managed a lot of livestock in a lot of different conditions. And the Fat Wallet Ranchers, for me, I love the master classes, the laser coaches. Those are great, but the very best thing about it me is I kind of got you kind of got direct access to you, Jim.
On a daily basis.
Yes.
Okay.
Hourly. I see you answer stuff hourly sometimes.
It is my passion, really. That's what I devoted all my life since I was very young. I love this. There is a comment here by Eric. He wants to tell you, it's not a question. He just wanted to thank you for your videos. They are what finally brought me on board with Total Grazing. You are in a very similar environment to my farm, so I really appreciate seeing what you do, how you are doing it, and when you are doing it. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome, Eric. I just like to bring people along and show them what we're doing. I do that primarily. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything but grass-fed beef. So we do that primarily. It started out primarily as we doing it to show the people who are buying our beef how their beef was raised. And we have it from birth to harvest. So we don't, there's a lot of I have, there's a lot of issues I take with the way cattle are handled and shuffled, and they go through 25 different handlers and sale barns, and they're weaned here and backgrounded there and feedlot here, and I don't think it's from a animal husbandry deal. I just think it's better. Our animals never leave our farm until the day they get on the trailer to go to be processed. And that's the way we like it. We got complete traceability, accountability. You know, I've seen every one of these animals from the day they were born till the day they leave. And that's how it started out. And I've got a lot of videos that was on there when I first started. You can go back and watch my, you know, I actually thought about going on there and getting rid of some of those earlier ones. You go back and watch them and you think, man, that's not right. But then I thought, you know what, I'm going to leave those on there. If anybody wants to go back, maybe I can help their thought process, because they can go back and they can see how I evolved as a grazer and how I came to where I'm at. And I would take, everybody, I heard, I don't remember who said it, but it really hit home, kind of made me, when I was making the transition over from a take half, leave half type of grazing. They said that your farm is a reflection of yourself. And if you don't like what you're seeing, you know who to blame. And it, you know, that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. That's what I said. I worked real hard, thought I was doing a good job. And you start to see these little telltale signs, and you don't pay them any attention because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Things will get better. And then they can continue to get worse. You need to be very observant. That's the number one thing. If I could get people to do anything, is be observant and be honest with yourself about what your animals look like and what your landscape looks like.
The only person responsible for us to make a profit is ourselves. That's a hard pill to swallow. But anytime that we are not profitable, we only need to look at ourselves and find a way to make it profitable. Okay, the last question of these big questions. How much of the Total Grazing Academy have you completed percentage-wise?
And you probably have added some stuff that I have not went back and checked. No. Oh, I've 100% of the Total Grazing Academy. Yeah.
I knew that. Okay. Now, okay, I don't have to ask. How much are you saving on hay per cow per year compared to your neighbors? Not to yourself, to your neighbors.
Oh, I mean, most of them start feeding hay, and you know, depending on what kind of fall we have. This last year we had an extremely dry fall. Well, dry summer and dry fall, and I've seen people, you know, they were began feeding hay the end of July, and they're feeding hay now.
Wow,
you know,
so they're feeding like 5 round bales per cow? Or more? No,
I mean, you know, whatever a cow would eat, but
yeah, that's too much. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you achieved higher grass productivity? Are you seeing better grass productivity?
Yes, sir.
Is your soil getting spongier, improving?
Yes, sir.
When you push in the stepping posts, it's easier?
Much easier most of the time. You know, they still get a little tough in places right in the dead of summer. We got shallow soils here. We've been a lot of agriculture going on. So my farm has been in my wife's family since 1753.
Okay,
1753. But her great grandparents owned it before the United States was a country.
Okay.
So it's been in that 200 and however many years it is, right off the top of my head, this farm has grown every kind of cash crop, from cotton, tobacco. You know, it was a small dairy back when everybody here used to milk 15 cows. You know, before their kids milked the cows before they went to school, and they milked them when they got home from school. You know, and they grew, and then it basically all transitioned to row crop production later on. So
has your soil started smelling more like the litter on a forest floor?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get down and smell it probably as much as I should. I just try to observe, like I said earlier. I know unquestionably that we're growing more grass than we
Okay.
did the year before.
Okay, then are you seeing better forage species in your pastures?
Sure. We're seeing a lot of native warm seasons coming in. Got a bunch of Eastern Gamma coming. Never seen any of it before in my life. The matter of fact, the first one I seen, I had to do a plant snap app. I wasn't even sure what it was, and it pops up Eastern Gamma, and we're seeing it spread over our farm. I mean, it's showing up everywhere on our farm. A lot of purple top, coming in. A lot of this time of the year, that stuff ain't take off yet. A lot of clover, legumes, common vetch, none of which have been seeded. I
Okay.
have seeded some white and red
Yeah.
clover in years past, but this is, just germinating from the seed bank, through the animal impact.
That comes up in your stockpile areas first. And
That's the
that's what's going to allow you to further increase your stocking rate, the warm season native grasses.
Yep. I'll say this, the biggest improvement that we've seen, and I don't know, you're the teacher here on how to get it implemented, but if I was going to do nothing, I heard Graham Hand. I think you know Graham from
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah.
He's a proponent of high stock of total grazing, and he said that he promotes people to get them to do a safe to fail trial on their
Yeah.
farm. And I agree with that because that's how I got started. I set aside about a 7-acre paddock, and I said I'm going to do whatever I have to do to not graze that paddock during the growing season. For the first year, I'm going to let it go. And there was a little bit I was questioning whether that was the right decision because you saw some. I still had a eye for weeds then. I see all this stuff coming up in there that I think, oh man, I don't know about this, but anyway, so we got a killing frost, winter set in. I went in there with the cows I had and I grazed it at the highest stock density or the highest utilization that I could get pulled off. And still, I went in with the mower and clipped behind them just because I couldn't get them to get it all like I thought it should. And that following year, after giving it that year off, grazing it at a high stock density with the high animal impact, the grass just explodes. You get all this stuff the next year, and then you graze that again according to what you teach in the total grazing program, and you start counting up those animal days per acre, and you say, okay, I harvested, and this wasn't. And I would encourage people, if they're going to do that, don't do it on the very worst piece of ground you got. Give yourself a fair shake.
No, wait.
It'll improve all the land, but you should give it on one of your at least mid to upper productivity paddocks if you want an honest shake. And I want you to count those cow days per acre that you grazed during the non-growing season with your stockpile, and then graze it the way Jim's going to teach you to graze it in the Total Grazing Academy, and tally those stock days up for a year. That's one non-growing season grazing full season stockpile, and one growing season doing the Total Grazing program. And I would guarantee you that if you implement it correctly, you will harvest more animal days per acre than you ever have with any other grazing management. And harvested animal days per acre is what determines your carrying capacity and what can therefore determine your stocking rate.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much grass you can go if you can't harvest it.
That's correct. That graze a third and leave 2/3, that's another very good idea. Now, because they get scours, are your livestock scouring in early spring and fall?
No, we're still grazing stockpile.
I know, but before,
Yeah.
Did they
Oh
start?
yeah, because
Ah,
yeah, I mean, see, now usually always by the second week in March, I'd be grazing annual ryegrass. It was lush, very lush, and it might have 6, 8 inches of growth, and you always hear, oh, you got to get out there and get started on it. It's going to get so far ahead of you, you'll never catch it. You'll waste it, and your cows would get the scours, and then I've had some awful rounds of pink eye. Later learned that that's self-inflicted for the most part. I'm not saying that there can't be some other factors, but almost all the time, I believe it was from me grazing immature forage and putting my cows in a state of acidosis and scours.
or grazing selectively, trying to
Yep,
go around the whole property very fast. That's what
yep,
happens.
yep.
Okay. If you want to answer the questions, they are there in the Q&A by Jason, Kelly, and Eric. Can you see them, or should I read them to you?
Uh, yeah, you can
Okay.
you can
Here
read.
comes.
I'm not seeing them here somewhere, Jim. Maybe I.
Okay, in the Q&A at the bottom.
There we go. Jason Kelly, I second Eric's comment. I actually reached out to Josh personally before making a decision to take the total grazing program. I'm glad I took his advice. Well, it's well worth the money. How many acres of pasture do you run your livestock on total? Right now, uh, before this year, we were at 165 acres of grazable pasture. We had planned this year to incorporate another roughly 40 acres that we had used for hay production. It didn't join our farm. It was not contiguous to our farm. So that was one reason that had delayed a little bit with bringing it into the grazing. We would have to haul some livestock back and forth there, but we had decided to go ahead and get it into grazing because we ain't feeding any hay. I actually sold my hay equipment this year, so I'm out of the hay business altogether for sure now. And but then we were able to acquire a lease on a adjoining farm that's a pretty large farm, so we will be grazing a little in excess of 500 acres of grassland going forward. We're working on the other farm now. It was been continuously grazed for, I don't know, 50, 60 years.
Mm.
Fences are in very much disrepair. So it's a work in progress to be sure, but we're up for the challenge, and we're making progress on it now. That's actually where we're grazing the cattle at right now. The previous leaser got his cattle off of it around June, so most of it they had, and his stocking rate had gotten light. He'd had some health issues. He was in the process of getting cattle off of it, so it was lightly grazed this year, and we allowed it to stockpile. And from June until we actually finished up our rotation on our farm and got over there, it was somewhere around December probably. I had planned on I had increased my stocking rate because I had planned on grazing the other farm, but this farm's contiguous to me, so I ended up over there rather than having to haul livestock down to the other farm. So we're grazing a little bit in excess of 500 acres, and we have about a third as many cattle as we need right now. So all you guys watching my videos and me grazing right on through winter this year, it was no feat. I have acres and acres and acres of grass that I'm not gonna get to, but you go back and watch them from a couple years ago, and we were stocked where we needed to be. And when we were grazing at about 1,000 pounds per one, acre and a quarter to acre and a third with no winter feeding. So it can be done. We're continuing to graze like we know we need to graze to improve the land. We're improving, we're breeding every heifer we got. It's not a great time to be buying cows. We're actually custom grazing a few head of cows for a guy as well. So we're vastly understocked at the moment, but we're doing the best we can to get stocked up where we need to be.
Well, Jason Kelly says that's awesome. So with all the additional acres, how big do you think you can make your herd?
I mean, I figure that we will, we'll be somewhere. I'm going to start with that same equation that I told you. I'll divide that 500 by 3, and we'll start with that number of brood cows. That'll be the goal. But the beautiful thing about this is we're working our way up to where we need to be. It's not like we're going out and buying. So I'll have a real handle as we're increasing our cow numbers as to where we need to be. So I'll go just as far as we can go, and if I make a mistake, I'll sell some cows.
Yeah, sure. I know you're going to be able to go up. Now, Eric, is any of the gamma grass coming up in crop ground or where there had not been cropping in the past?
So right now we're not seeing any very much gamma grass in the cropland, but we have got such a it was actually the very first field, the one that I was telling you about when I was trialing this. That was the field that I started in. There was a sprig or two of gamma grass showing up when we were doing take half, leave half, and all that. It's I would not say it's gamma grass dominant now, but it probably makes up 50 to 60% of the sward in the summer, in the warm season. And I mean, I don't know, the diversity in that field is unbelievable. There's so many different kinds of grasses and forbs and stuff in there. I can't identify them all. There's videos on my YouTube about it where I'm looking at it. But so what we try to do now is that a gamma grass makes seed throughout the growing season. It don't just make one seed head and quit. It'll just kind of keep making seed and making seed and making seed all through the growing season. So what we've done is allowed it to get good full ripe seed heads on it and take the cows in there and graze it, and then move them up and allow them to move the seed. And so we've done that successfully, and we're moving that gamma grass. That's in a bottomland area where it started, and we're successfully moving that gamma grass up out of that bottom up onto the upland. So it's quite impressive. That stuff is amazing. I'm telling you, when it is so dry, that we got some common Bermuda and just common crabgrass and all, and it'll get dry, and now all those other things, they just won't do anything. And that eastern gamma grass just keeps growing like, it's amazing. It's truly amazing.
Let me tell you what happens. When your soil organic matter improves to the point that the gamma grass can do well, it takes over. That's why it started in the bottomland. And as your soil organic matter increases in the upper parts, it will cover that too. That's the beauty of this.
Yeah. It's worked out well.
Okay, well, I don't know if you want to allow people to talk, or if we've been here an hour, maybe people are getting tired or you're tired. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to answer a few questions if anybody has them. If they're tired of hearing me flap my jaws.
No, they want to hear you. Please raise your hand if any of you want to ask a question to Josh. Eric, it will be an awesome testament when those warm season grasses start showing up in the crop ground.
And we have some pretty good warm season annual grasses that we don't plant that we're seeing a lot. And I actually asked you about one that it's called fall panicum that we see. And
you're talking about Indian grass, or
no, it's an annual grass. It's fall panicum is the name of it, and it's a great I mean, we finished cattle on it. It's just a native a native annual warm season grass that we see show up, and we've started to see a lot of beaked panic grass. It's actually a perennial native warm season grass. That's we see it more in the bottomland. It must prefer a little bit wetter soil, but it is very productive.
It's organic matter. Once you increase it, it will. You see, I've always watched it in every environment that I go to. In France, in Turkey, in Morocco, in South America, it's the same. Okay, David Jarbo has a question there. How do you know when to start grazing the cool season grasses in the spring?
I'm gonna let you answer this, Jim, because you're gonna do a better job of it than I'm gonna do, and he's the
Well,
one that taught me, so I'm gonna let him tell you if you don't mind.
okay, David. I wait for the cool season grass to have enough fiber to prevent scours in your livestock under a total grazing. That means we wait a little more until the leaves start to bend down and are close to the floor before it goes to seed or it starts to put out the flag leaves. That's when I prefer to graze cool season grasses. And then you might ask, but what about clovers? I want 100% flower. I don't want it like 10 or 20% because then we'll get scours and
Bloat.
bloat. I wanted to ask you, Josh, are you seeing Illinois bundleflower, the
I
legume?
have not. I'm not sure that it's native to our area. So if I have seen it, I didn't know what I was looking at. Let me put it that way. I haven't
Yeah.
seen anything that I think
Well,
would be
I
that.
think it is native. I think it will come, but it will take longer. Then David Jarbo says, thank you. So you are total grazing lactating animals in the spring? Yes, yes, David, always. Because you see, we want the highest quality for them. What I said is to prevent scours. When your livestock have scours, don't feel well, and they are not good and efficient converters. They are not healthy. When you have diarrhea, do you feel very strong and converter efficient? No.
Mhm.
The same with your livestock. So look for their health first. I explained that in the nutrition online course. And then go for the highest quality that allows them to have optimal health. And then you go forward and you increase stocking rate and per animal performance. Don't worry about that. Lactating animals will give more and better milk when they are healthy than when they are scouring.
And remind them again what you did for how many years?
Dairy
You're
nutrition
a
for
grazed dairyman.
25 years.
You were a grazed dairyman, so
Grazed dairyman for 28 years.
you probably know a little bit about cows' lactation and quality of milk.
Maybe. You see the milk, urea, nitrogen goes way up when you are grazing immature forages or selective grazing. And then that creates scours in the calves or in the lambs. So don't do that. Okay, David says paradigm shift. Thanks. Yeah, it is a paradigm shift. And Matt Henley said, do you think urine pH checks are useful? Yes, if your water is not changing the pH in the urine. So take it with a pinch of salt. I have done a lot of pH urine checks, but milk urea nitrogen or blood urea nitrogen is very accurate. Urine pH is not so accurate. Matt Robbins, fantastic word, Judge. We have switchgrass, big blue stem that has appeared in all cotton fields after several cycles of total grazing and rest. I'm sure the same will happen to you.
Well, thanks, Matt. Matt and his dad Mark have also helped me tremendously along on this journey as well. They got some fantastic Mashona genetics and just genetics in general. As far as being much smarter than I am, they were quicker adopters and they're further down the road. So I think Jim needs to get Matt on here to do a little bit of talking as well.
I think we're going to have some with Matt, but don't remember if it's tomorrow or the after tomorrow, but we're going to have this week. Yeah, on the 7th, on Thursday.
Good.
It's going to
Everybody
be
needs to
panel.
if they've listened to me ramble, they need to come listen to somebody that can articulate their point a lot better than me, and that would be Matt Robbins. So I'm going to give him a plug and tell everybody to tune back in and listen to Matt.
It's going to be a Thursday at 6 p.m., but you will be there too. And Adam Rabjohns from Australia will be there too. So you can ask questions from the three of them, and that will be neat. Okay, well, if anyone has another question, I will be glad to have Josh answer it. Andy, Alexander, Andy Welch, Bogdan, Curtis, David, D. Jones, Eric, Farm 2009, Hunter, James, Jason, Jody, John, Justin, Matt Robbins, and Philip King, and Rob Kramer, Sean, Shelly, Stefano. I am very happy you all attended. And if no questions, then I'll allow you to go to rest. Oh, it says here, Curtis says, great job. Thank you, Curtis. Okay, good night, everyone, and may God bless you all. And I will have this recording ready. Bye-bye. Oh,
all right, thanks, everybody.
Shelly says, can we plant switchgrass and lose them to get a jump on the grass?
I don't have any experience with that, to be honest with you. So Jim probably does. I don't.
No. We wanted to do that in Tallahassee, Florida, but the seed was so expensive that we went the slow route, doing what you just said, full growing season stockpile, and then graze it off in the winter. And after 3 years, we have all those big four of the blue stems and the Indian grass and everything coming up back without planting one seed. So yeah, that's my experience.
Yep. And it's a lot. You made money in the process rather than spending money.
And you get the variety that are adapted to your locality. Because if you bring seed from somewhere else, they may not adapt. Most surely they will not adapt. Okay. Well, thank you very much and good night to all of you. Bye-bye.